大旋風
When One Piece fights go wild, they create moments fans never forget. From Luffy's legendary clash with Katakuri, to Whitebeard shaking the entire world at Marineford, these are the moments when One Piece fights went absolutely insane. We start with one of the most epic battles in modern One Piece. Katakuri seemed unbeatable from the start, and with the terrifying advantage of advanced observation haki, he pushed Luffy to his absolute limits.
Get push! Snake Man!
But then Luffy revealed another Gear 4 form for the very first time, and the entire flow of the fight shifted. Suddenly, Luffy was able to keep up with Katakuri's speed, trading blow for blow and even pushing past him at times. What started as a completely one-sided beatdown turned into a duel of equals.
パワーでも速さでも そっきりボス
餅がベタついて全然離れね
終わりだ麦わら
え。ゴムゴーブラックマンバ 無ゴムのキングコブラ
すっきりの茶もう逃げられんぞ
The non-stop intensity, the insane choreography, and the growth we saw in real time made this fight one of the craziest battles in the series. But what elevated it even further was Katakuri himself. He wasn't just another enemy, he was a rival who gained Luffy's respect, and in turn, gave Luffy his own. The moment where Luffy covered his mouth with his hat, honoring Katakuri's pride, perfectly captured the mutual respect that turned this from a simple fight into a legendary clash. Katakuri isn't loved by the fans for nothing. This battle showed exactly why he's one of the most iconic characters in the series.
Luffy? なんだと
麦わらのルフィをぶち殺して
そいつは俺の弟だ野放しにできねえな
Next, we have the fateful clash between Ace and Blackbeard. What began as a pursuit of betrayal turned into one of the most dangerous fights in the series. Blackbeard's newly acquired Devil Fruit made him a terrifying opponent, nullifying Ace's Devil Fruit powers and dragging him into darkness. Ace, on the other hand, unleashed the full power of his flames, turning the battlefield into a blazing inferno. Fire and darkness collided in a spectacle that showed just how dangerous both men truly were. The sheer scale of their powers was insane, and while the fight itself was incredible, its consequences were even greater. This was the battle that set the stage for Marineford, and it all started with Ace versus Blackbeard.
わかったかエースクローズクローズ 知らねえよっしゃ炎の槍かお前の強さをもってしてもな身の前では全て無力エース俺の仲間になれ
男に生まれた意味がねえだろう わかったかバカ。俺は白ひげを王にする。
愛妖か闇か勝者は一人だ。
Imagine fighting a giant that's 67 meters tall, over 219 feet. A normal giant in One Piece is around 12 meters, so Oars was already on a completely different level. That alone would be insane. But then he starts to stretch and fight like Luffy. The entire crew had to combine their abilities against a single opponent, and the result was pure chaos. Watching the whole crew sync up like that reminded fans just how special these full crew battles are. It wasn't just about raw power, it was about the Straw Hats as a family, pulling off the impossible together.
行きますよ。ライトつけろ。
肌貫かれた。ゴムゴムの。
チョッパー、お前なんでそんなところに。
手の中に。ランブル。ジャンピングパッド。シュート。
チョッパー。
ゴムゴムのガトリング
After the crew gave everything they had, only Zoro, Usopp, and Nami were still standing. Things looked desperate, and it seemed like Oars couldn't be stopped. But then came Luffy, back in action stronger than ever, in a way we had never seen before. And of course, it had to be the real Luffy to take down the fake one.
モンキー D ルフィだぜ。俺一人だぜ。ピストラゴムゴムの
To save Nico Robin, Luffy faced off against Rob Lucci in one of the most iconic battles in all of One Piece. This wasn't just a fight, it was the climax of Enies Lobby, with the fate of Robin and the crew's bond on the line. Luffy pushed himself further than ever before, unveiling Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd in desperate attempts to break through. Each exchange was brutal, every hit carrying real weight, and the fight turned into a test of pure willpower. What made this battle absolutely insane wasn't just the power on display, but the emotion behind it. Luffy's refusal to back down, even when his body was on the verge of collapsing, showed exactly why he's a captain worth following. And when he delivered that final jet Gatling, it became one of the most unforgettable victories. 'When Oda said the final saga would feel like a battle royal, nobody expected one of the first matchups to be Law versus Blackbeard. On one side, Trafalgar Law, fresh off his victory against Big Mom, finally standing among the strongest. On the other, Blackbeard, the most unpredictable and terrifying pirate alive. The clash between Law's awakened devil fruit and Blackbeard's darkness was pure chaos, and it instantly reminded fans how insane the final saga is going to be. It was the perfect reminder that in the final saga, anything can happen at any time.
覚醒技か。くそー。クローム。ショックビレ。ウォープ。ルーム。タクト。クローム。
But as the fight reached its end, Law was left defeated, and Blackbeard stood ready to claim yet another devil fruit. It felt like the Heart Pirates were finished. And then came the most unexpected twist. Beepo, the only one still able to move, ate the Rumble Ball Chopper had given him, and made the impossible possible.
バカな、隙もねえのに。待て待て待て。おーったー。
We can't talk about insane One Piece fights without mentioning Luffy versus Kaido. For so long, Kaido was built up as the strongest creature in the world, seemingly untouchable, even for Luffy's strongest forms. They fought multiple times throughout Wano. If you know the exact number, let me know in the comments. Every time Luffy pushed harder, Kaido found a way to knock him back down. But then came the moment that changed everything. Luffy's awakening of Gear 5. Gear 5 was epic, hilarious, and pure chaos all at once. Exactly what makes Luffy and One Piece itself so special. This was the fight that broke the internet. After all the chaos of Gear 5, it all came down to one final move. Luffy ended the fight with one of the craziest punches we've ever seen in the series. A massive blow from the skies that crashed down on Kaido with overwhelming force. It was the perfect way to close out one of the most insane battles in all of One Piece. Another insane fight from Wano is Zoro versus King. King pushed Zoro to his absolute limits, forcing him to master Enma and unleash the true power of Conqueror's Haki. The fight kept building in intensity with every strike, and Zoro had to dig deeper than ever before to stand his ground. What made this fight even crazier was how it was brought to life in the anime. The animation, the choreography, and the sheer spectacle of Zoro's final attacks turned it into one of the most visually stunning battles in all of One Piece. For Zoro fans, it was the moment that proved he is truly Luffy's right hand, capable of standing tall against any opponent. Next, we have one of the most shocking clashes in the final saga, Shanks versus Kid. Nobody expected the fight to end the way it did, and it instantly showed the insane gap between Shanks and the new generation of pirates. Even though the battle itself was extremely short, the ending was absolutely shocking. In just one overwhelming strike, Shanks reminded everyone why he's feared and respected across the seas. For Kid, it was a brutal reality check that turned him into a meme overnight. This time it was Big Dad standing in his way, and not Big Mom.
出てこい。ああ、鏡や。さすがだな。消しとら。鏡。関西。
Moving on, we have Zoro's legendary fight against Mr. One in Alabasta. For most of the battle, Zoro was completely outmatched. Mr. One's body was as hard as steel, and none of Zoro's attacks could break through. Every slash seemed useless, and it looked like the fight was hopeless. Pushed to the edge, Zoro reached a new level of swordsmanship, the moment he learned how to cut steel itself. That turned the tide and secured his victory, marking one of the biggest milestones in his journey to becoming the world's greatest swordsman. It was raw, intense, and exactly the kind of fight that made fans go insane.
いいんだ。もう受けねえ。鳥居居合。獅子孫孫。ダイヤでも切ろうっての。そりゃもったいねえだろ。参ったぜ。
Next, we have another fight from the Alabasta arc. What made it special is that in this arc, every Straw Hat had their own all-out fight, but this one carried a flair unlike any other. This clash stood out because it wasn't just about power, it was about personality. Watching these old fights feels like being a kid again, sitting in front of the TV and experiencing One Piece for the very first time. If you know what I mean, drop a comment, and I also want to thank every single one of you for the amazing support. The last moment we'll look at in this video is the Marineford War. When Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world, entered the battlefield, we already knew this war was going to be insane. Every step he took shook Marineford, and the moment he unleashed the power of his devil fruit, the entire island trembled.
に侵入されました。一番隊隊長マルコ、14人の隊長たち。俺の愛する息子は無事なんだろうな。大気に機敏。
これが死後
When Whitebeard finally decided to step into the war, he leapt down from the Moby Dick and entered the battlefield himself. His very presence alone was enough to shake the Marines, but for his allies, it was the opposite. It gave them hope. Seeing their captain in action reignited their spirits, and the allied pirates rallied with renewed determination. And then he flexed his power against the giant Vice Admiral John Giant in a stunning way. It was the perfect reminder of why Whitebeard was called the strongest man in the world.
邪魔だな。
After countless sacrifices, the pirates finally managed to free Ace. For a moment, it seemed like everything was turning in their favor. The impossible had been achieved, and hope spread across the battlefield. But then came the turning point. Akainu's magma fist struck Ace, ending his life in one of the most heartbreaking moments in the entire series. The brief feeling of victory was shattered in an instant, and the war descended into complete chaos. From that moment on, Whitebeard could no longer hold back. Consumed by rage, he unleashed his full fury on Akainu, and Marineford witnessed the terrifying might of the strongest man in the world, like never before. Seeing Whitebeard giving his all, even in his final moments, was one of the best scenes in all of One Piece. This war escalated completely. Pirates, marines, and warlords all clashing in chaos that shook the entire world. And then came the man who put an end to it all.
よくやった、若い海兵。キャル数秒は、良くか悪くか、海の運命を大きく変えた。あれは、あの船、新世界の四皇がいるんだよ。この戦争を終わらせに来た。